Now, I know I'm messing with every Christmas pageant, greeting card, and nativity scene you've ever encountered since childhood, but there's that pesky little fact that the Bible doesn't actually mention a stable. Got a great video for you today, but I just want to remind you that my new book, Another Gospel, is coming out very soon. You can go to alisachilders.com/anothergospel to check out the bonuses you'll get for pre-ordering before October 6th. alisachilders.com/anothergospel. If you grew up in church like me, there's a really good chance that you heard some rumors about some biblical characters that when you read the Bible for yourself, you realized these rumors were not true. But we're going to talk about some of these rumors today that a lot of people believe, but they don't realize are not in the Bible. The first rumor has to do with Mary Magdalene, and that is that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. Now, she is undoubtedly one of the most important figures in the New Testament. Mary Magdalene was a friend of Jesus. She was one of the faithful who stayed with him during his crucifixion. She was the first person Jesus appeared to after his resurrection. But from historical art pieces to rock operas like Jesus Christ Superstar to the best-selling book, The Da Vinci Code, to modern movies, to television, she is almost always portrayed as a former prostitute. But there's only one problem with this assumption. The Bible never identifies her as a prostitute. So it's difficult to determine where this faulty characterization came from. But it was most likely from a confused reading of Luke 7:36 through 50. So this passage describes a sinful woman who breaks a jar of expensive perfume on Jesus' feet, wipes them with her hair, and kisses them. And although the Bible never gives the woman's name or even implies that it's Mary Magdalene, these two women have often been conflated throughout church history. Now, Mary definitely had a rough past. She was delivered from 7 demons, according to Luke 8:1 through 3. However, of the 12 times that she's mentioned in the Gospels, not one mention suggests that she was a prostitute. The second rumor has to do with Satan. So the rumor is that Satan was the worship leader in heaven. So if you grew up in church and you went to youth group, you most likely picked up this rumor somewhere along the way. But the problem is that this is not what the Bible teaches. This is actually a misunderstanding that probably comes from Ezekiel 28:13, in which the king of Tyre, who many theologians believe is describing Satan, is characterized as being covered with many precious stones and gold. Now, if you read the New King James Version, it mentions timbrels and pipes as well, although the exact meaning of those is a bit uncertain. So there are only a few passages of scripture that are believed to actually describe the devil. And this is the only one that mentions what might be interpreted as musical instruments. So although Satan is described as being the anointed cherub and the model of perfection before his fall, there's no reason to assume that he was a musician, let alone the worship leader in heaven. The third rumor we're going to talk about has to do with Jesus. So you may have heard this one, that Jesus was born in a stable. Now, I know I'm messing with every Christmas pageant, greeting card, and nativity scene you've ever encountered since childhood, but there's that pesky little fact that the Bible doesn't actually mention a stable, or even a cave, as early church tradition suggested. The second chapter of Luke tells us that there was no room at the inn. And the Greek word that we translate as inn in English can also be translated as guest room. In fact, Jesus uses this same word in Luke 22:11 in reference to the upper room, which was the site of the Last Supper. Now, the Bible mentions that Jesus was laid in a manger, which was a type of feeding trough for animals. So that has led a lot of people to think that maybe it was a stable. But it would have actually been customary for Mary and Joseph to stay with Joseph's relatives in Bethlehem rather than an inn. With the guest room occupied because of the census, Jesus was probably born in the lower level of the house, and this is where animals would have been brought in at night to be kept safe and warm. The fourth rumor is about Moses. You may have heard that Moses had a stutter. And much ink has been spilled over whether or not he actually had a stutter or some kind of speech impediment, or if he was actually a profoundly talented speaker. But this speculation all revolves around Exodus 4:10, in which Moses questions his own competency. He says, "Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and tongue." Now, we have to bear in mind that Moses was expressing his own insecurity, not necessarily reflecting the reality of his abilities. In fact, prior to his death at the hands of an angry mob, the martyr Stephen described Moses as mighty in words and deeds. And this is in Acts 7:22. So good cases can be made on both sides, but the Bible never explicitly states that Moses was a stutterer. The final rumor we're going to address today has to do with King David. So maybe you've heard that King David danced naked before the Lord. Well, this comes from 2 Samuel chapter 6, where it says that David danced before the Lord with all his might. The Ark of the Covenant had returned to Jerusalem, and there was a big celebration with shouts and trumpets and other musical instruments. But the Bible clearly indicates that David was wearing a linen ephod, so he was not naked. The confusion comes in a couple verses later when his wife thought his behavior was less than kingly, and it says that she despised him in her heart. When he got home later that day, she accused him of going around half naked like any vulgar fellow would. She was clearly offended by him, but he wasn't dancing naked as the rumor goes. I hope we've cleared the air regarding some misconceptions about biblical characters. Just like in real life, it's always best to investigate the truth before believing a rumor. Maybe I missed one. If you know of a common rumor about a biblical character, leave a comment below.